Hi, welcome to Home Learning, Home Reading, Part 1. This is me. My name is Jocelyn. I'm a mum, a teacher, and I'm here to help. Before I share information about home reading, I want to give you a list of some of the elements of quality literacy instruction. This list is not exhaustive, and it's not just based on my own preference for classroom teaching. It comes from a solid research base, and I can share it with you with confidence because my own experiences with my own children and the students in my classroom have shown that teaching in this way works for all. Nobody is left behind. Today I'm going to focus on point number 5 as the foundation for my recommendation about home readers. Never asking a beginning reader to read something they don't know how to read. You would think that was just common sense. My recommendations today also come from approaches such as the ladder of reading. This terrific graphic has been developed by Nancy Young, and I highly recommend her website and blog. Essentially, all children benefit from a structured approach to learning to read. I've seen this in my own experience, and even students who would be in the green categories experience acceleration when taught using a structured approach. We can see from this graphic that up to 65% of our children cannot learn to read effectively without the strategies outlined on the previous page. So what does this have to do with home reading? Well, for you as a parent, you need to know that basically for most children in Australia, the instruction provided does not meet their needs. Sending home the usual home readers at the early stages of the reading journey is not only unsuitable, but in many cases damaging to reading instruction and the well-being of the child. If your child has looked like this or this, and if you have felt like this, closely followed by this, when you've been reading at home, the good news is that this does not have to be your reality. There is something that you can do. Having a confident, happy child reading at home is not only possible, but can be an expectation and should be an expectation for every household. It's not always easy, and there are times when it takes a very long time. But what I'm going to share with you today will help you help your child build opportunities for success. Let's talk about why traditional home readers don't meet the needs of a large proportion of children. Here we have a typical book that would be sent home with a young child in the foundation year. I'll say foundation because the first year of formal school has different names in different states and territories. You may even recognize this one. In this book, there are 4 words on the page. It would seem reasonable for a young child to be able to read this book. However, the problem is that a young child will not have developed the necessary skills to do so. In order to read this book, a child will have to know 6 sounds. The high-frequency word They would need to know that the A and the I next to each other is a spelling choice for the long vowel A. They will also need to know that the S in is a spelling choice for Z, and they will need to be able to blend sounds together to read the words. If they don't know these things, they're going to rely on inefficient strategies such as guessing from the picture or picking up on the common pattern throughout the book of something is big that you would have read to them at the start of the story. They'll likely appear to cope with this okay at first, because the language and length of sentence is quite simple. However, they aren't actually learning to read. As they progress, they'll get something like this. The sentences will be longer, and the requirement of the student to use complex code will increase. On this page, we can see that the child will need to know the R in father. They need to know that the T and the H can also be th as well as th. They need to know the ER. They need the hours in mouse. They need to know that S and E can be a spelling choice for S at the end of a word. They need to know that the S in is can be a choice for Z. They need to know about split digraphs or vowel plus E representations. They need the high frequency words here and the. They need the e in bread, the or in for. They need to know that the y on the end of a word is often a choice for e, as in hungry, and that the o can be a choice for a, as in mother. There are at least 12 different pieces of information the child would need to know in addition to effective blending in order to accurately decode this page. If a child is still learning to blend with the basic alphabetic code, or they don't have this information, this page is an impossibility. No wonder our kids throw books across the room and cry. The worst thing is that many, many thousands of children are told to have a look at the picture and think about what would make sense. Children are taught to decode text by guessing. Approaches that teach children to use multiple cues to decode the text have been discredited, and yet our schools persist in using them. There is a myriad of research backing up what I'm telling you today, but my favourite clip is by Stanislas Dehaene, a French cognitive neuroscientist. I've shared the link at the end of this presentation, but effectively he shares that based on evidence around brain processing, the number one way to teach reading is by teaching children the alphabetic code and how to blend sounds together in words. His other findings include gems like whole word reading is a myth. Even as adults, we process words sound by sound, not as whole units. And I will explore the issue of sight words in a future video. A note on the difference in how children learn to read. Some children will be absolutely fine with the books presented on the previous slides. They will seem to just pick up the sounds and read the words with ease. These are the children who sit in the green boxes of Nancy Young's graphic. You may have a child who fits into these green boxes, but then you may have a child who sits in an orange or red box. We have both in our house. When we're looking at an approach that works for all children, we need to recognize that it is often difficult to predict which children will sit in which boxes. There are certainly indicators or risk factors for which children may have difficulties with reading acquisition, but there are no crystal balls to predict who will thrive with broad instruction, who will struggle, and who will coast along, never feeling quite competent. The safest and most equitable approach is to teach all children in the way needed by those at risk. This allows us to cast the net wide and capture all children in the learning process, rather than less than half. It also makes the crystal ball unnecessary. Teaching in a way that leaves 60% of children behind and then waiting to see who needs extra help is a waste of time, money, and is damaging to children. A wait and see approach equals wait to fail. We have a moral and ethical responsibility to our children to set them up for success. Let's recap. Different children have a different level of need for structured approaches to literacy. Traditional home readers ask children to decode using sounds and concepts they haven't yet learned. This should be avoided as it builds a reliance on inefficient and damaging strategies such as looking at the pictures to work out what the word is. Teaching all children in the way that is necessary for the up to 65% of children who do not learn well using a broad approach means that 100% of children receive the instruction they need. A wait and see approach means wait to fail for many, many children, and traditional home readers are a large part of that approach. Now that we know what's not working with the readers that are being sent home, next video I will tell you what you can do as parents so that home reading can be effective and stress-free. Thanks for watching. I hope this has helped.